Curtain Call, our podcast all about theater. I'm Robert L. Douglas, your host. As you know, we meet here every week to give you some insight and some experiences and stories about theater in Detroit and across the country. We want to highlight our players, our playhouses, our writers, directors, and all aspects of theater in and around Detroit and across the country. As you've watched this before, you know we've had some very interesting guests on, and we have a very interesting guest on today. We're highlighting an actor today. We have with us Wjzz Cool, who I had the pleasure of working with, who is an experienced actor and well-known thespian here in Detroit. He's done a lot of things in theater, Shakespeare, actually done commercials and the like, and we just want to explore his journey, his story today, and bring him to you. So with that, here is Wjzz Cool. Now before we start, I want to let you know, if you have questions, if you'd like to call in and ask Wjzz a few questions, our number is 313-355-6018. That's 313-355-6018. With that, hello Wjzz, and welcome to Curtain Call.
Hello, Mr. Douglas. Thank you for having me.
You call me Mr. Douglas, y'all. Makes me feel a little old, but that's okay. Welcome, Wjzz. I've been following your career now for over 20 years, and I think having you on this show will be very informative and entertaining for our viewers. So, with that said, you've been in theater, as you said, for over 20 years. You actually signed up with a couple of agencies, and you've done everything from My Humble Family Love Play to Shakespeare. So, with that being said, why don't you share how your journey started and how that journey has unfolded over the last 20-something years?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. My journey started, I've been working at Chrysler for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a coworker, and in the conversation, he asked me what it was that I really liked to do, what was my passion. And I told him that acting was a passion of mine. It was something I really enjoyed doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he just asked me a simple question, well, why aren't you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
So it made me think about it, and I started trying to seek opportunities to do some acting.
Mm-hmm.
I stumbled across a couple of auditions, and in the course of those auditions, I kept hearing about training at the Detroit Repertory Theater, some acting workshops.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my beginning. I signed up for an acting workshop class, one of about 10 that I actually ended up taking over the course of some years. And that was my beginning, because it was from that training that led me to my first professional play,
Okay.
which was with Plowshares Theater Company.
Okay. Plowshares, that was with Gary
Anderson, yeah.
I'm looking forward to talking to Gary real soon. What play was that?
It was Mulebone. I played the sheriff.
Okay.
Yeah, I played Lumboger.
Okay.
Yeah, the sheriff.
And that, of course, opened the doors and led to what came next?
That led to me, as I started asking questions and working with veteran actors, as far as how to go to the next level, as far as getting involved with commercials. That led me to find a photographer and take my headshot to a couple of talent agencies, the I Group, and then the Productions Plus, the Talent Shop. And from there, I got my first commercial, which ended up being a Sam Bernstein commercial.
Oh, we all know those commercials. And I've seen that commercial. I think they might even still play that every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They played it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the beginning, and that's what told me that it was possible that I could do this.
Okay. You had shared with me earlier some of the motivations actually when you started to feel like acting was something that you wanted to do. Could you share that with our audience from your early childhood?
Yeah. One of my first role models was Sidney Poitier.
Mm-hmm.
When when I was a young kid, my dad used to work 4 to 12, and from time to time might be up when he come home, and he might let me watch a little television. And on one particular night, he pointed out Sidney Poitier on the television screen. And back in the day, that used to be something to see a black person on TV. And he was my first role model, and the way that he spoke of him, the kind of reverence that he had, it just kind of planted a seed in me of something magical. So it was something to shoot for. So when I started acting, he was a role model, followed by Denzel, of course. And that kind of planted the seed for the type of strong characters that I wanted to play.
Okay. Your experiences with the Detroit Rep. So what was it like being in those theater classes? For those people in the city of Detroit who are thinking about acting, who think, oh, I can do this, there are things you need to learn. Things about the stage, even things about how to act on camera. There's a complete difference between acting on film in front of a camera and acting on the stage. Of course, on the stage you have a live audience, and there's a lot you can be gained from working in front of a live audience in terms of your performance. But before you get on the stage, like you said, people would always mention to you about training. Tell us a little bit about what that is and how young people who aspire to be actors should seek that out and what they're going to learn.
For me, started going to the Rep was the best place that I could have went, because all of the teachers were professionals. They were professional actors, directors, writers. And the type of classes that I took there, I took voice and diction. I took scene study. I took improv, which is very vital for an actor, just to be able to think on your feet, and also to be able to handle the unexpected things that happen sometimes in live theater, especially. So that you weren't caught off guard, and that you could kind of learn to create in the moment and be truthful at the same time. So for me, it was the best, as well as the connections that I made, like with the teachers that I had. One of my teachers, Miss Charlotte Nelson, she actually helped me land the first role, one of the first roles that I got, and my first professional play, which was Mulebone through Plowshares Theater. So, and even at that time, I started off with, I didn't have the confidence or the competence, but I knew that I was willing to fail until I succeeded. So, and I pretty much learned on the job, because it just really was a part of who I am. As far as what I say is, I say my job, my day job is what I do, but acting is who I am, because it allows me to have the full expression of my artistic soul.
Right. I've always said that my job, my career was my vocation. Right. Theater was my avocation.
Absolutely.
And it's what I lived to do.
Absolutely.
And if at any point in time that became my vocation, that would be fine. Absolutely. Yeah. And what you say about learning from masters and watching masters and learning from someone who is eminently qualified to teach you. You mentioned improv. That is so important, because anything can happen on the stage. I remember doing a play in Nashville, a theater company called Theater Nashville, which was a semi-professional company in Nashville. We did a play called The Last Meeting of the Knights of the White Magnolias. And it was all about an organization that was kind of like the Ku Klux Klan. And I was like a black janitor that kept their meeting space cleaned up. And one night in the performance, the door wouldn't open. And someone from the outside kicked the door and opened and broke it off its hinges.
Oh, wow.
And the audience was hysterical. And I had, my last line was, I'll just close up. No, I'll clean up and lock the door and all that kind of stuff. That's what the line that closes out the play. I end up having to, my last line ended up being, well, I guess I'll clean up and fix the door. So you have to be prepared for anything to happen on stage.
Absolutely.
Even if the wall falls, you
Right.
got to stay in character.
Yeah.
You can't break character. People breaking character in stage is a cardinal sin. You don't ever want to break character on stage. So the training is so critical, and then the experience. You learn from those experiences.
Absolutely.
So tell us more about your journey as you went on. Mewbone was by
Zora Neale Hurston and Langston Hughes.
Right,
They
right.
co-wrote it, yeah.
Right, the Harlem Renaissance writers, the two best known names of the Harlem Renaissance. And the reason I mention those is those names is because as we sit here and we talk about the theater arts on our black culture, it's important to know the pioneers. Pioneers like Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston, James Baldwin, Ossie Davis, Ruby Dee, Lorraine Hansberry. It's important to know those names.
Amir Baraka.
Amir Baraka, yeah, we talked about Amir Baraka when I had Raymark Milner on. We talked about Ron Milner and how Amir Baraka was a contemporary of Ron and Amir Baraka were contemporaries from the black arts movement of the 60s. So it's important to always emphasize those to you. So if you hear me emphasizing those names often on this show, it's because those are names we need to know, because they lay the foundation, they lay the groundwork for whatever us writers and performers are doing today. Again, this is all about enhancing the performing arts, all about lifting up our culture. And when I bring on these actors and actresses and writers and producers and set designers and builders, it's all about advancing the performing arts of theater. So from Mewbone, it was to what?
Well, I have to take a step back because you mentioned Ron Milner.
Okay.
And when I was, I ended up having a full circle moment with him.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in high school, I entered a competition, a dramatic interpretation competition. My drama teacher gave me a monologue from Who's Got His Own.
Okay, the Ron Milner. Yeah.
Ron Milner. Yeah. Okay. And I ended up winning that competition, getting my picture in the paper and everything.
Oh wow!
And then years later, I ended up having the opportunity to audition for Mr. Milner himself.
Okay, and what show was that?
With the wine
sellers buy?
I think.
With the wine sellers buy?
And that may have been it.
Okay.
But it was just the idea that I was in his presence, and it didn't dawn on me until after the fact. But just being in his presence, I knew that I was in the presence of greatness.
Mm-hmm.
You know
I felt the same way, right?
Yeah.
I felt the same way. I had the pleasure of producing Checkmates.
Okay.
Right. Which was, again, being in the presence of greatness.
Yeah.
You gain so much from that. And people, it's so important, those theater experiences. And I was telling Hugh earlier, and what you've heard me mention pretty much every week on this show, once you get bit by the theater bug, you are hooked for life. Okay, I've said it now for the fourth or fifth, however many shows this is. Every week now you hear me say that, and it's so true. So go ahead, Hugh.
It is true. It happened to me. It was my grade school music teacher who put me in my first play.
Okay.
She saw something in me that I may have been aware of but didn't fully realize. Mm-hmm. But the moment I was on that stage, it felt like home. Mm-hmm. And the way that I was, even at that time, was able to embody a character, mm-hmm. and just the way that I felt. And then not only that, but the response that I got mm-hmm. from my teachers and from my parents watching me, the pride, mm-hmm. it was something that left a really powerful mark on me.
Like a drug.
Yeah.
Like a good drug.
Yeah.
I know the feeling. And so from Mewbone, we went to.
I went to work with the Matrix Theater Company, as it was a play called The Ambassador.
Okay.
And then I did some background work, and I think one of the the first film that I had the opportunity to work on was 8 Mile,
Okay.
and that was an amazing experience, especially being the first experience being on a film set, and just being in the presence of so many people who were hungry and who had talent. You know, just being so close to where the magic happens and being a part of it. You know, and just seeing, the director had respect for the cast and the crew, and I remember there was a member named Proof from D12.
I remember. I knew Proof. I knew Proof after my stepson. They were good friends. Proof used to say that me and my wife were the only parents who actually went to the hip hop shop to buy clothing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because we were always visiting the hip hop shop basically to pick up Omari. But we Proof and Bizarre and all those, what was it, 31 flavors, that whole Eminem crew. So you were saying about Proof?
But he spoke. There was when all the background workers were in this tent. He spoke to all of us, and he's basically just said that all of us are here because we have a dream, and no one is any higher than anyone else. We're all here to serve this story. So it just left a mark on me, just knowing that someone had that type of respect in that class, and it was like, it definitely made me feel comfortable just being there, but it also it was reassuring, because it was like, I remember leaving my day job to go to check in and go through all the process of that, because it's like, when you haven't done it, you don't know.
Right.
But then having gone through that, and then it was like a 14-hour day, but a 14-hour day doing something that you absolutely love, even though you're waiting most of the time, it's like, hurry up and wait, you know, for that 5 or 10 minutes that it takes for them to capture the scene.
Right.
But for me to be in that element and to see how they put everything together, it was like everything was fascinating to me. And just to see these people, like see Mekhi Phifer, to see Eminem, to see these people that I had seen from afar up close, and to see them do their thing, it was like, I knew this is what I wanted. I knew I wanted more of this. You know? Right. Yeah.
It's time for Station ID, you guys. You are watching Wjzz Cool TV Curtain Call, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, X, and all other social media platforms. Please, we'd like for you, if you're watching, like us, follow us, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. That experience on the movie set, as you describe it, I've experienced that myself, and it is rich, and you spend a lot of time sitting around waiting. You eat good. They feed you real well on the movie set. So that's a really different experience. However, the stage,
oh my goodness,
that's a completely different experience altogether. Tell us about how you feel about the differences in those experiences, because I know on the stage it's immediate. Your response is immediate. The feedback, the energy is different. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I look at the stage as definitely being a training ground, and one of the things that I loved about my experience with the stage is the repetition that you get, and the opportunity to create something over and over again, and then flesh it out. And then, like you said, if you're in a run where there's multiple shows, like which was my early experience, to do 4 or 5 shows in a weekend, it really teaches you a lot about it teaches you a lot about just being present, being truthful, and then also reacting to the live audience. The energy is different between the shows, because from one show to the next, it can be totally different. But each time you have to you have to bring it regardless. And that was something that I definitely loved, was the discipline. You know, the discipline, commitment, and then just like you said, just that live audience, that immediate feedback is like there's nothing like that.
Nothing like it.
And it's always been, I mean, but also, yeah, it's been really something that I really treasure. Then also the people that I admire are all stage actors. You know, from Samuel L. Jackson to Denzel to, you know, Don Cheadle, you know, all these, Jeffrey Wright, all these are people who got seasoned on stage.
Right.
You know, and I've worked with people who've only done film and who haven't done stage, and I feel like, I mean, to each his own, but for me, I want to be well-rounded, and I feel like the only way you can do that is through doing a play. You know,
right?
And collaboration sometimes.
Right. I went to a workshop earlier this year, where they were doing scene development for movies, and a lot of the young people, a lot of the people there who were there to do scene development, some were good, but you could tell that the only thing they've ever done or tried to do was movies.
Wow,
and because there's a basic level of realism that you get from acting on the stage that has to be developed.
Absolutely.
And so I know the guy who was actually conducting the workshop was trying to pull that out each time, trying to pull it out of each and every person that went up there. But it was something, you know, it takes time to develop, and the best place to develop that is the stage. So you young people out there who are watching this show, who are thinking about being actors, you may want to be in a movie like 8 Mile or some of these movies that they're producing here in Detroit. And of course they are producing a lot of movies here, and the opportunities are here. But if you have an opportunity to get, first of all, some training at some place like the Detroit Repertory Theater, or if you're a youth, the Mosaic Youth Theater, or if I happen to be offering a workshop somewhere, take it. And if you can get in a play, definitely do that. Okay, so tell us more. After 8 Mile, that was your first film. First film.
Yeah. Then I started getting involved in student films, but I also started getting involved in commercials as well. And I was very fortunate. For a period to get steady work. And then I also, when the film incentives were here and that was going on, I had the opportunity to work on a few of the films. I worked on Real Still with Hugh Jackman.
Right.
I worked on Up in the Air with George Clooney.
Okay.
I worked on the HBO movie You Don't Know Jack with Al Pacino.
Okay.
Which was a really interesting experience too, because it was a really interesting experience in the fact that part of the process for me was I was signed with another agency called Real Style, and I would have to check. I would have to check in from week to week to let them know that I was available. And there were times when I didn't necessarily. I wasn't always checking in. There would be times when I was like, well, I'm going to give it a rest. But then I would see something that would motivate me, and I would call. And I saw Monique when she was doing her show.
Right.
She was talking in one of her opening monologue about if you have a dream, how you should be pursuing it. And I was like, because I got an email about availability for a film, and to play a reporter, and I just did that like maybe the week before, and but something said if you're an actor you should be acting.
Right.
So I said yes, not knowing really anything about it other than it was an opportunity, only to end up being selected as one of 6 people to be assigned as a reporter, and then being in a scene directly with the legend Al Pacino.
Okay.
So it was, and that was amazing. But it was just basically because I decided to act and not sit by,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that has always made all the difference.
Right,
you know?
always.
Yeah.
Was it did the part have lines?
It did not have
Okay.
lines. It did not have lines, but it was, for me. It was just the
Experience, right,
yeah.
that was
And then
same for
also,
me.
yeah, it's like with the training that I've had. It's like I feel like all along my journey,
Mm-hmm.
all the training that I've had has prepared me for each next opportunity.
Right, right.
Like I said, with the Detroit Repertory Theater, the
Mhm.
teachers that I had there, they became mentors.
Mhm.
They became people that I admired and respected,
Mhm.
and I wanted to develop myself to the point to where I earned their respect.
Mhm.
You know, that was always my mindset. It was along with, like I said, failing until I succeeded.
Right.
Because when I started and I was in that first play, I didn't quite have the confidence. So my voice didn't quite carry.
Mhm.
But as I kept doing it and as I started to believe and as I started to work with people, you know, like yourself,
Mhm.
who encouraged me and gave me the space to grow into my greatness,
Mhm.
I was able to meet that level of expectation.
Indeed,
You
indeed.
know.
And I'm sure everybody who saw you along your journey felt the same way I did. And the level of professionalism and the effort that you brought to the roles. Talk a little bit about how we came together. I mean, you mentioned Detroit 300. I wrote a play for Detroit 300 entitled "Bringing the Word: The Legacy of Black Preachers in Detroit," and we performed that play a couple of times in the spring and in the fall, and did a excerpt of music at the time was called at Shane Park over the summer. So that was all a part of that whole Detroit 300. Talk about how that led to us.
Well, as I was a part of the Detroit 300, and I was in one of the dramatic showings that they had there, and I was always asking people that I met, other actors, who do I want to work with, and your name came up, and as far as someone who did quality work and was all about excellence, and so when the opportunity presented itself for me to work with you, I leaped at the opportunity, and yeah, it was someone recommending me to the opportunity, and then that led me to trying out for the play, which the character was pretty heavy.
Yeah, right. Indeed,
it was pretty heavy.
Indeed,
And it wasn't quite anything that I had ever done before, but you definitely gave me the encouragement and the space to grow into it.
Okay.
And just the cast in general, they were very supportive.
Yeah, I've been blessed to have some good cast for that particular play, Family Love, and that character. You always want most actors want a challenging role. The role was not a big role, but it was a very challenging role. The role of Omar in Family Love. Omar is a college student who is pursuing one of the main characters of the teenage daughter in the play, and who's also a college student. And he comes to our house to visit Grandpa Baker, who you met my Grandpa Baker a couple of weeks ago in Mike White. He comes to visit, and he's talking about he's a med student, and his parents have got money, and they got a place up in the woods for a summer place or up in the woods, and he wants to take the young lady Mickey up to and just get to know her, and then after she says no because she's waiting on a boyfriend to show up. Omar doubles back to later on that night, and he's inebriated. He's been drinking, and he physically assaults the young lady. And so it takes a lot of things to do that, to go from this pompous self-righteous kind of great kind of guy, a narcissist who, and he did a good job in that. He did a great job. Having myself on top of
but the writing, it was the writing. It was on the page. Like they say, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage.
And this is so true. This is so true.
Yeah.
And the interesting part about I look at you and your successes in theater, and I've had a couple other guys who played this role. I think George Middlebrook, this might have been his first role, and now he's doing movies all over the United States. And one of the first guys to play this role, Rick Tisworth, who went on to Hollywood to become Rick Worthy and have a successful career in Hollywood, also played the role of Omar. So I'll take a little credit for creating a role that has been like a stepping stone for great actors to move forward. And from Omar, you went on to what?
I went on to...
Before we do that, it's time for another station ID. You are watching Wjzz Cool TV, Curtain Call, the podcast all about theater, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, X, and other social media platforms. Like us, follow us, share, comment, please comment, and subscribe. And again, if you'd like to call in and ask some questions, the number is 313-355-6018. Thank you for watching Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Okay, we're back to your journey.
All right. So I've also done some. I also did training. Done some training videos. I did an audio book with Black and Brown Theater. And
No, I'm not familiar with
Black and Brown Theater. Emilia Rodriguez,
Okay.
a director, writer,
Okay.
and it was through my association with Shakespeare of Detroit that I came in contact with him.
Okay.
And shout out to Shakespeare of Detroit.
And we're going to talk about Shakespeare in a little while. Black and Brown Theater. Where can someone find out about that? 'Cause
they're on social media.
Okay. Okay. I'll be looking them up and see if we can get them in. Because it sounds like that would be. Is it Hispanic in nature? Okay. Good. I'd love to get them on.
Yeah.
I thank you for bringing that up. Black and Brown Theater. I have to make a note of that.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead on that one.
Okay. So I've also done student films, and I was in a film. It's on YouTube. It's got more than 3 million views. It's called The Lookout, where where I play a homeless man, and it deals with child trafficking. So that was really interesting how that came together. But that was through a relationship that I had with someone that I met doing another play with a young man named Andre Bicey.
Okay.
He did a stage play called Lost and Found, and I took on another tough role with that. He was an incarcerated stepfather who had sexually assaulted his stepdaughter.
Wow.
So, but through him going to prison and coming out, he wanted to redeem he wanted to somewhat redeem himself. So he was, I guess in effect, a changed person. So, but at the same time, but Omar kind of helped me.
Okay.
having gone there before, dug into that bag to play the dark side as well as the light. You know, like I say, there is a joy in playing someone that has rough edges.
It allows you to get deep within yourself and to go to some places. A lot of times people who do theater get into these roles and they get so deep into the roles after the performance, after the production is over, they find themselves having to take time to get back to themselves, to get out of the darkness of a role, the darkness of a character. But then again, that's all a part of the theater experience. I know I've done plays where I was that character and was reciting lines for months in everyday conversation, just using lines from the play.
And that's funny, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like life imitating art. Then
Right.
yeah.
And you find yourself just in your daily work and daily encounters with people, hearing something that will, where you end up saying a line from the play in response.
Yep.
You know, and you kind of smile to yourself. You know, and that's life. That's life imitating art, or art imitating life.
Yes.
That's theater. And you mentioned Shakespeare.
Yes.
Uh,
But I also have to mention August Wilson as well.
August Wilson, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned that you had done August Wilson. We talked about August Wilson also being a contemporary of Ron Milner. A lot of people know of August Wilson who may not know of Ron Milner, but believe me, people, Ron Milner was one of the greats, right alongside of Amira Baraka and August Wilson and other playwrights of that era. Go ahead.
Yes, I did a few of the August Wilson plays, Piano Lesson.
I saw that. I saw that stagecraft. Was that a stagecraft?
Stagecraft.
Yeah, I came to that. That was a good production.
Yeah. Accepted to the role of Avery, the minister there. Yeah. And then I've done Fences.
Yes,
I played the character of Lyons.
Okay.
Troy's son, the one that comes begging for money.
Right.
And
I auditioned for Fences.
Did you?
At the Detroit Rep.
Oh,
when I
did
first
you?
moved up here, Ruben Yabuka directed it.
Oh, yeah.
And I was not known in the area, but I did audition for Fences.
Yeah.
And that was before I actually started writing and producing my own plays. So once I started that, I kind of got out of the whole acting thing.
So you mind if I ask you, is that what motivated you to start writing, or was that something
No,
that
actually,
you
the
always...
motivation of writing was working with the students I was working with at Oakland University.
Okay.
And they wouldn't let me direct the talent show because they said I was too demanding. And
Really?
So, yeah, I had this theme, I had this idea for the talent show for the Black History Month. And after the first year I'd done it, they said I wouldn't let everybody perform because everybody didn't have talent.
Right, you have
They
standards.
didn't have talent, they didn't have no business being. And so they told me, you can't do this. So I took the themes that I had in mind for that and started writing. I wrote some one-act plays and monologues.
Okay.
And put them all together, and that was my first play. And then Family Love was the next play that I wrote.
Wow.
And each year I would write a play for Black History Month, and that's how it started. And I would send the plays back to my mentor and instructor at Tennessee State, and he would critique them and send them back to me and tell me what I needed to do to make them better, or how I would need to work on character development, transitions from scenes and acts, and building the drama, the plot development. So each year I'd write something and send it to him, and of course we would do it on campus at Oakland University, and that went on for about 5 or 6 years. And Family Love really clicked.
Yeah.
Family Love clicked, and I ended up being able to do some things with Family Love over and over and over and over again. And until you had to come along, and then again after the fact. Family Love kind of opened the doors for me as a playwright. But yeah, that's how I started. Now, what was my question?
I don't remember. I know we were talking about August Wilson. Didn't
Right.
The last show that I did was Gem of the Ocean.
Right.
That was
right.
most recently, and for me that was a full circle moment because that was back at the Detroit Repertory Theater.
Right.
Yeah, I actually had been cast in a play previous to that. It was Ceremonies in Dark Men.
I was in Ceremonies in Dark
Were you?
Men. Yes, I was Mr. Jenkins in
Oh, wow.
Ceremonies in Dark Old Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because of work, I had to pull out of that, so I didn't get the opportunity to do that. And then years later, this opportunity presented itself, and I was able to do it.
Okay.
So it took me. It took me 15 years to get on the rep stage. And
Okay.
it was worth every minute of it.
Okay.
It was worth every minute of it.
Yeah, we're going to get the rep on here too. And
Okay.
the rep is going to be doing every decade of August Wilson plays.
Wow.
And I think that, the one you just mentioned is like the start of that.
Mhm.
And I know they're doing, well, they're doing every decade.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
every season will be an August Wilson play in the season. So those of us who love theater, you definitely want to subscribe and get on the mailing list for the Detroit Rep so you'll know when those plays, and all those plays are good. We just saw a play over there a few weeks ago that was excellent.
Mhm.
And we're going to get it. We actually interviewed them before we actually, that was our first interview.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to get them on live here in the studio to talk about the upcoming season.
Mhm.
But doing August Wilson, that's like doing a standard.
Oh
You know,
my
it's
gosh,
like
yeah.
doing the,
Yeah.
you know, how musicians sing those songs that last a lifetime, that are known as classics. Well,
Yeah.
that's what you get with the August Wilson plays. So what's
And then that led me to the Shakespeare.
to Shakespeare?
Yeah.
That's where we
My association with the Detroit Rep.
Mhm.
While I was at the Rep, I met a young lady there named Sam White, Samantha White, who was the founder of Shakespeare in Detroit.
right.
And we became friends. We actually did a showcase sing together.
Mm-hmm.
I played Henry VIII, and she played Anne.
Okay.
And we became friends. She messaged me because before this, a friend of mine had asked me what my dream role was,
Mm-hmm.
and I said without hesitation, Othello.
Mm.
And then fast forward to me getting a message about the opportunity to play Othello,
Mm-hmm.
which I jumped at the opportunity, and then
Mhm.
that was the premiere production for the Shakespeare Company, which has been going on 10 years strong now.
Right.
But it was an amazing experience. It was the hardest work that I ever had to do as far as developing myself in the character, but just it was an opportunity for me to definitely live a dream, to be able to do Shakespeare in the park, in the heart of the city,
Mm-hmm.
and to have it well received, and it was just a magical night.
Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know, Shakespeare, Othello is a Moor, and that means he's African. He's black. Shakespeare wrote a tragedy about a black man. And if you know anything about the tragedies, the thing about Shakespearean tragedies, Greek tragedies, all tragedies, the premise is that your main character is usually of royal blood and in a royal robe, and in some form or fashion has a tragic flaw that leads to his downfall. And that's what happens in Othello, and as well as the antagonist, Iago, plays a major role in bringing down Othello as he kills Desdemona.
Yeah.
If you don't know Shakespeare, you would want to learn Shakespeare. Now, I admit it, Shakespeare is not easy to read or learn. But think about Shakespeare like this. I took Shakespeare in college, and my professor made it plain. When you read Shakespeare, what you're actually reading is something that is written like a soap opera. You've got all these plots and subplots and all this melodrama going on in the script. And so once you get past the difference in the writing, the language, and how it's spoken for that period of time, you can almost, when you read and watch Shakespeare, you're actually watching a soap opera. And so if you look at it like that, then you'll have a better understanding of it. Granted, it's not easy, but you have to just kind of listen, and if the actors are really good, they can really break it down for you and help you understand it. I know I did the Earl of Kent and King Lear, and it took a moment to be able to interpret the lines to the point where I'm delivering them so that the audience understands just what's going on, because the language is Old English, and it takes some really powerful acting and focus to get that across to people. So take some time to get to know Shakespeare and to study Shakespeare and see some Shakespeare plays. Like Hugh says, it goes on where tell us about where it's being, where you can see some Shakespeare in the park.
Well, you can connect with Shakespeare in Detroit. They're on social media.
Okay.
Yeah, there are other Shakespeare coming through. There's Shakespeare in Royal Oak as well.
Right, and Stratford. It's not far from here. So during the summer is a good time to catch Shakespeare, because Shakespeare is usually done in the park. It's time for another station ID. You're watching Curtain Call on Wjzz Cool TV live, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, X, and other top social media platforms. Please take a moment to hit that little hand, thumbs up, like us, follow us, share, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for watching Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Okay, so from Shakespeare to August Wilson, from Robert Douglas to Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston, you've covered a lot of great writers. What has been some of your favorite roles?
Omar was one of my favorites, to be honest with you, and not just because, but
so
honestly, it was because of the challenge that it presented to me, and also because of where I was at that stage of my journey. It was early on, and I definitely felt the need to establish myself and to prove myself. And I remember back during that time, you giving me some advice, or basically telling me, because I have humble beginnings. I come from a small place, and I don't have the college training. But I remember you saying that it's not where you're from, it's how you come. You know, so if you're willing to put in the work, then you can do it. You know, and it was moments like that, having encouragement from seasoned people like you who were in the business and new talent and all of that, because although I felt that I had this ability, I needed the affirmation, you know, and sometimes that comes through the work and sometimes it doesn't. So, but to get it from your peers or people that you respect, you know, that's everything. And that was definitely a motivating thing that kept me going. Because,
great.
you know, in the journey to do what you want, there are times when you can get discouraged, and there are times when, you know, you question whether it's for. I question whether it was for me to do, or whether it was something that I could quit. But me being who I am and it being such a part of who I am, there is no quit in me. So I have to do it one way or the other. So
great. Anything coming up on the horizon that we should be looking for?
Not anything that I can speak about, but I am very excited about the future.
Okay.
Because I'm always preparing.
Okay.
You know, and I'm also thankful for the growth that I've achieved. Because from where I started to where I am now, I feel like I'm at a place where, and this is basically just through the associations of the people that have encouraged me along the way. Because as we were talking about that mule bone, I had an understudy that was working in there, and his name was Edmund Jones, and he went to Wayne State, and he had a lot of experience, and in that rehearsal period, I was struggling. But he picked up his lines like that. He picked up his character just like that. And I remember one rehearsal in particular, everyone was laughing and they were right there with him. And I felt my confidence like just diminish. And to the point to where I didn't say anything to anyone outwardly, but I just kind of packed my stuff up and just went home.
Wow.
And it was the stage manager, Janet Cleveland, who called me that night and said, "Don't be discouraged. I know you're struggling, but you're on the right path. Keep going." And it was that phone call. It was just that thought. It was that sentiment. It was that made me dig deeper, work harder, until there was another cast member in the show, Herman McCain, who by the end of the run, he would call me. His nickname for me was, "That's my favorite Marshall."
Okay.
So I went from failing and flailing to rising and succeeding.
Okay.
You know? So like I remember hearing you say, "Take wings."
Take wings. Take wings.
And I've always carried that with me. You know what I mean? I've always carried that with me.
Take wings.
Yeah.
And with that being said, take wings. Usually, and take wings, people. There's a saying in theater that's stated for good luck. In other words, you don't want to say good luck in the theater, so most people will say break a leg. Break a leg is a term that's used in the theater before you go on stage, usually to say good luck without saying good luck. So they would say break a leg. Before every show, we say break a leg and take wings. And with that, we're going to take wings on this show today. I've thoroughly enjoyed this journey with you through your theater experience. On Curtain Call, you mentioned Edmund. I'm hoping to get Edmund on soon, who is now the acting director at Mosaic. So we've talked, and we're going to get him on soon. Thank you, for coming in and sharing your experience with us. I'm sure the audience got as much out of it as I did. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Curtain Call, our podcast, all about theater and the performing arts of theater, and lifting that up for you and bringing it to you, all the players, from the players to the playhouses, from the writers to the stage. Thank you for joining us this week, and we hope to see you back again next week.